Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Advanced Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Pytaek light machine gun. I really don't know how to pronounce this one. The Pytaek, I'm just going to call it the Pytaek because that's easy for me to say, as in I'm taking a pie from somebody. While my pronunciation skills are lacking, the analytical skills will make up because we'll be talking a lot about the stats and unusual characteristics of this weapon. The gameplay that you're going to get to see is me using this weapon in a variety of different roles with a ton of different attachments and optics. I think I have a little bit of gameplay from almost every different optic except ACOG, and I'm using rapid fire, using advanced rifling, silencer, all kinds of crazy stuff, so you're going to get to see a lot of variety in gameplay. But first off, let's talk about the damage. It'll deal 40 damage in close quarters combat, meaning that you can kill people in 3 shots up close, but decrease to a minimum of 24 damage at a distance, which means the maximum number of hit markers you can get with this weapon is 5, and of course in median ranges you can kill in 4 shots. So it'll be a 3 to 5 shot to kill, 40 to 24 damage, and this is basically like that of most of the assault rifles. However, it does have a 1.1x headshot multiplier, which means unfortunately you cannot get 2-shot headshots up close, but you can kill in 3 or 4 shots at longer ranges as long as you squeeze in at least 1 headshot. That'll kind of push it over that barrier, so headshots are definitely worth it with this weapon, and the range unfortunately is somewhat lacking. The 3-shot range is only 13 meters, which is very similar to that of a shotgun or some of the lesser submachine guns. Not a very great 3-shot kill range. The 4-shot kill range at 30 meters is more like that of the HBR or the AK-12, kind of like a longer range assault rifle. But as far as light machine guns is concerned, this is not a very long-range light machine gun. You'll probably get quite a few hit markers with it, but it's really not a damage or rate of fire weapon. It's all about the accuracy, which we'll get to in a little bit. Speaking of rate of fire, the standard rate of fire is 631 rounds per minute, and if you add rapid fire to this LMG, it'll increase up to 789 rounds per minute. I personally do add rapid fire on occasion. We're going to talk about that later on, but rapid fire is a very viable attachment for this weapon because it pushes the rate of fire up past a critical point to make it more competitive with the assault rifles, and you want to get to your bonus increased accuracy as fast as possible, which is really the way to use this weapon. The effective time to kill, unfortunately, is going to be a little bit slow. It's not firing super fast, and it's not dealing a ton of damage, so in most of the instances it's going to seem like a slower time to kill weapon, but again, the time to kill is not really the main thing here. The main thing is that it has 0 recoil after the first 10 shots. If you've seen my in-depth on the foregrip, or actually if you've seen my in-depth on this particular weapon, I did a whole episode about how it's a 0 recoil LMG. It's the link down there in the description. We're linking a little bit out of order. It'll say on the tooltip or the description like decreasing recoil over time. What that really means is after your 10th shot, this gun has absolutely 0 recoil, 0 kick, no wobble, no sway, no nothing. It is a dead-on laser and the most accurate weapon in any Call of Duty game ever made, more accurate than the laser. The downside is that the recoil of the first 10 shots is not kind of high, it's actually quite high, it's rather high, and that by the time it goes back down to doing its 0 recoil, you're probably going to overcompensate and it takes a second or two to get readjusted. The iron sights are not my cup of tea. Unfortunately, the foresight is a little bit obstructive and there's just too many markings around it. I can use the iron sights, I can kill people with the iron sights, I just do not prefer them. I prefer optics. Unfortunately, the amount of gas and smoke around the iron sights are also applied to the optics on this weapon. For whatever reason, when you shoot the Pytaek, it blows all kinds of crazy amounts of smoke and particles into your optics, and it kind of varies per map. It's probably the worst on Instinct, but it'll do it on other maps too. And just to show you that I'm not crazy, I took a screenshot of it so you can see just how much smoke it blows into your optics. I literally cannot see what I'm shooting at here, and I'm just kind of hunting for hit markers. It can be very, very frustrating. You're going to need to use something like a thermal sight to get rid of this, which I don't like using. Hipfire is very poor. It's a light machine gun. It's got a colossal hipfire spread. Yeah, sometimes you can put a laser sight in it and boost in and spray somebody in the face just because it's a bullet hose, but it's not going to perform nearly as well as a submachine gun. The reload times, the handling times, the sprint in and out, all those raise and drop times, all of those are going to be incredibly slow because it's a very large light machine gun. This is not a weapon that you want to be caught reloading with. It's not a weapon that you want to sprint in and out of combat with too often, nor one that you want to raise and drop with. It's really more of a sit back and camp sort of steady fire weapon, not a very aggressive one. Again, the run speed is also slow at 80%. We're doing heavy weapons, so it's going to seem a little competitive. 80% is bottom tier of movement in this game, and you're going to be running very, very slow, so lightweight is a big boost to you. The best variants of the Pytaek, or the Pytaek, we're going to say Pytaek, are the Eradicator, Exploit, and Hasty. Most of these are ones that boost damage or range with the and expend something like accuracy or mobility. Accuracy, while it is important, is not as important because after your first 10 shots you're going to be it's going to be perfectly accurate no matter what. Even if you get a variant with like -5 accuracy after your first 10 shots, it's still going to be perfectly accurate, so you don't have to worry about it as much, which is going to seem very confusing when I get to my recommended classes because I'm going to recommend a foregrip. I think that the Pytaek is a viable and usable light machine gun. However, I personally do not enjoy it. It just has an unusual feel to it. Yeah, it's viable. Yeah, you can kill people. It shoots fast. It kills in a normal amount of shots. It's laser on accurate after those first 10 shots. But before that, before those first 10 shots, it's kind of worthless. And I don't really like having a gun that I have to wind up like an old school chain gun. I like a gun that I can just kind of go with as is. And again, the most important thing about this gun to remember is that you have a 10-round wind-up time. The wind-up time is personally too long for me. During that time, I usually end up getting killed, or I overcompensate the recoil, or it's frustrating, or something goes wrong. So you just got to be safe while it's winding up, keep that in mind. But if you can make it past that, if you like sitting in the back of the map, it can be very, very dangerous. Lastly, in this in-depth episode, I'm going to talk about some of the better attachments on this weapon, and it's going to be somewhat different because I usually recommend like a best attachment or an ideal attachment or something like this, but with the Pytaek, it has a couple of unusual weaknesses and a couple of unusual strengths, so a lot of the standard attachments work very well, and you're just going to have to pick one that suits your playstyle. Advanced rifling is great on this weapon. It increases the 3 and 4 shot kill range and makes it very dangerous. I didn't run it as much, but it is a very solid, viable, and usable attachment, especially if you stack it with a variant that already has good range. Rapid fire is also very viable. I don't think rapid fire is quite as viable for just, increasing your pure time to kill as much as it does increase the speed at which you dump your first 10 shots and get to that perfect accuracy. Like, the faster you get to perfect accuracy, the better, and rapid fire helps you get there. Silencer is also very viable. It does nuke your range, but during your wind-up time, nobody's going to see you on the radar or hear you shooting quite as loudly. So with the silencer, I would sometimes just kind of hipfire and walk around corners and spray, and then ADS, and I would already be at my perfect accuracy without them knowing about it, and it was very, very viable. Optics, I feel, are necessary on this weapon. I really don't like the iron sights. I don't think the iron sights are on point, so I pretty much always have to use optics on it. And lastly, as crazy as it sounds, the grip can be very helpful. So I know it's a perfect accuracy weapon after those first 10 shots, but the first 10 kick very, very hard, and I find myself being way off target and kind of overcompensating when it goes back to 0 recoil. When I put the grip on it, it kind of gets that initial recoil under control and helps me stay on point during the sustained fire 0 recoil time. And, like I said, it seems kind of counter to logic, but it really helps me control the weapon, and I feel that the grip is also a very viable attachment. And I would just tell you to pick 1 or 2 of these and kind of find something that works. A lot of these work, but they work very differently and in different ways. Well guys, that's all for this in-depth episode. I hope that you enjoyed it and you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, or check out the EM1 laser in-depth, or the next in-depth, which will be live in a few days, is the XMGs. Drifter out.